I'm a bit of a princess and I'm afraid of dogs and cows and anything that's slightly icky. And no one in their right mind would have thought that I was the person to strap on a rucksack and go hiking. And so everybody just thought I was mad.
Welcome to the Wild and Finally Fucking Free podcast show. This is a space where truth talking gets real, behind the scenes grit of the future humans is laid bare, and we are celebrating and sharing the real raw stories of change agents, neurosparkly people, the witchy wild women, the deep feelers, the unapologetic sensors, the status quo challengers, and the huge-hearted healers and helpers. And guiding you through this wild ride of entrepreneurship and full heart-led contribution to the world is me, your host, Kylie Patchett, aka KP. I am a proudly neurosparkly, natural-born status quo challenger, and I thrive on helping disruptors, rebels, and revolutionaries find their voices, amplify their message into the world, and harness their raw potential, alchemize it into unleashing your full potency. Not only will I be sharing the behind the scenes of some of the most amazing, most status quo challenging thought leaders, I'll also be lifting the veil behind my own business. In 2024, I 18x'd my monthly income. Still blows my mind to say that. And this year I am leaning into how joyful and fun it would be to shift from 6 figures to 7 figures in a quantum shifting year. All through leading from my full unapologetic voice, my unleashed potency, and with my big, wildly lit up heart leading the way every single step of the way. So together with my guests, I am going to be sharing the mess and the magic, spilling the tea on the identity shifts behind stepping into thought leadership, breaking the ties that bind us, unlearning old patterns, and reweaving brand new ways of living, loving, learning, and leading. We're here to break boundaries, reimagine what's possible, all while collapsing timelines and leading with joy, love, and our fiercest wild woman selves. This is not just a podcast. It is a rebellion. It is a revolution. It is an invitation to join the Mad Hatters collective movement. And by Mad Hatters, I mean all the colourful, creative, gorgeous, world-changing, out-of-the-box humans out there. If you've ever longed to be wild and finally fucking free, this is your sign to lean in. Let's get started.
Oh dear.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. I have the beautiful Colleen Sims in the house today. Hello, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. From a very misty France to what looks like a very sunny Australia.
I'm like in broad daylight. What time is it for you? It's at 7:30?
It is 7:30, so It is morning and the sun is up. I think it's just because it's really misty, so
Yes, it definitely feels very different. And also it's quite, I don't know, the whole time zone thing, I know that we know this, but it's so confusing that I have already had the day that you're just about to have it. Anyway, that being said, can you please introduce yourself to our beautiful listeners? I cannot wait to get into your story because, as I said to you before we started recording, I feel like it is going to be a personal fire under my bum. So what would you like to share?
Okay, I'm Colleen and I am recently retired, I guess, the last couple of years, but I'm an English woman that lives in France. We moved to France nearly 20 years ago on a whim, but not a whim. It had been something we'd wanted to do for a long time and things navigated themselves. I think it's now or never. We've had a great life here. It's definitely home. But a couple of years after I arrived in France, I was diagnosed with cancer. And once I'd come through the other side of that, like many people, I think you reassess what's important in your life. And one of those things happened to be, I have no idea why, that I would walk 800 kilometers across Spain. And doing that, the process of doing that, literally changed my life and my outlook. And that has rippled across friends and family and the way we live our lives today and shaped how we plan to continue living our life.
Oh, I just knew. I said to you before we started recording, I turned 50. I have this yearning to go to Europe and see where my dad was born, but also to walk or cycle through Italy. I can't even tell you why. That's what I'm drawn to. And when I saw your story again today, because I read everything when they come in, but I just never know who's turning up on the day that I podcast record. And I was like, oh, this is the lady that did the sentence. I was sorry, I think I just said the wrong name then. My head's all shuffled. I just love how so many times like a significant health diagnosis then creates this like, well, hang on a minute. What am I going to do moving forward? If I get through this or when I get through this, what does that change about my outlook? You've got children as well. So I assume that they also were they born in France or?
No, they're older. They live all over. So two are now back in the UK and one lives in Spain.
Oh, cool. That's very cool. That's very cool.
I guess if you think of Europe compared to Australia, we're quite small, really. It's going to visit a friend for tea for you, isn't it? You go across
I literally live like 3 hours from the ocean. Like to get to the end of the edge of Australia where I live is more than
my American friends are the same. They think nothing of traveling for 5 hours, and we're like, that's like the length of England. Why would we do that?
Crazy, right? So when you were in the middle of, first of all, when did this first occur to you? This idea of walking 800 kilometers? Was it just some random thought or?
It was random. I feel as though sometimes it started many years before when two friends walked the Camino in early 2000s, before smartphones and the rise of the mass internet or what have you. But they walked. So I remember thinking, I like a walk. I'll go for an afternoon stroll. But I remember thinking, oh, that would be nice. And when I looked it up, I was like, they are seriously going to walk 800 kilometers across the country. Okay, forget that is not me.
Yeah.
And I parked it and I never ever thought about it again. And we were on a holiday in northern Spain. And this was about 18 months post the cancer. Yeah. And we were driving along quite a busy road on our way to Burgos. And I kept seeing people hiking beside the road, which Spain is beautiful. Why would you hike along a road? And husband said, oh, they're pilgrims, like my friend Jen had done. I was like, okay. And we carried on driving. We spent a few days in Burgos. We continued on to Leon, not knowing that these cities meant anything other than that they were meant to be nice places to visit.
Yeah.
And I kept seeing more and more pilgrims. And we would plan to go to Santiago naturally along the line. Then I just said to him, I don't think I want to go to Santiago. I really think I want to walk there. And so we drove onto the coast. And at the coast, I sat on a beach, put my hand on top of a perfect shell and just thought, you know what, I'm really going to do this. But I was not that fit. I was considerably overweight after a couple of years on steroids and antibiotics and the treatment. And I'm a bit of a princess and I'm afraid of dogs and cows and anything that's slightly icky. And no one in their right mind would have thought that I was the person to strap on a rucksack and go hiking. And so everybody just thought I was mad. And yet, a year later, I did it.
That's so good. I just like this. I love it when some idea falls into someone's lap and they say yes to it instead of convincing themselves of all the reasons why they can't do it or it's not possible and I love like when I read your little comments in our form and you said about being a princess and I was like, I hard relate, Colleen. Because I have friends in New Zealand and they've got a beautiful walking track that goes right from the tippy top of the Northland all the way down to the right at the bottom of the Southland. And I think it takes around about 3 months to do beginning to end, but you can do segments of it, like all those walks. And my friend over there used to be like a huge walker and she like tramper and everything, which is what they call hiking. And there's always been something in me that is, I really want to do this, but like, what is stopping me? I think, I don't know. probably just the actual practical considerations of, because even my concept of going to Italy, not something that my husband would be even interested in, like literally not. And I'm not even really sure that I want to go with friends. I feel like it has to be like this solo thing, but then I wouldn't do it by myself. So I'm like, where do you even start with this planning of these things? And you now help guide people through these journeys, don't you?
Yeah. So after I'd finished and walked, it definitely changed something in me. And it's not a religious revelation. It wasn't a moment. I honestly think as humans, we're hardwired to walk. We evolved to walk. And those 5 weeks on the trail, like you say, well, I want to go to Italy. Something's telling me to do that. And yet I don't. And I think it was the same for me in that there's so much noise in our lives, family, work, bills, things need doing on the house. You have this huge to-do list. And I think one thing that cancer, I guess, taught us was that list disappears when you get your diagnosis because everything's focused on when's my next treatment, when's the surgery. And so it was a reminder that we put obstacles in our way because we genuinely believe it has to be done. I really have to get that done before Thursday. I can't do that because I told so-and-so I was doing X, Y, Z. And we genuinely believe that.
Yeah.
But when you're walking and all you have is 3 changes of clothes and you're looking for a bed, somewhere along the line, all that noise stops. And it's so liberating.
Sign me up. That's what my brain is saying. Sign me up. I'm also looking, whilst I'm listening to you, this is a beautiful garden office that my gorgeous husband has built me. And right in front of me, my cat is lying in my wingback armchair with his belly to the sun. And I'm like, I just feel like I'm hearing your words and I'm seeing him and I'm like, there is something amiss.
Yeah.
And it's so funny, isn't it? Because I've heard that before. I've got one of my very close friends went through breast cancer a few years ago now. And we have had similar conversations about all the reasons why you tell yourself that you're not ready or this is not the right time or it's too this or it's too that. And it's all just bullshit. Like it all falls away when it needs to. Yeah.
Exactly. But we forget that. And not because we think we're special or important. It is just how everybody lives their lives. And I feel as though it was just really freeing to be able to let your thoughts wander off to places where they just haven't been for decades. And I feel one of the things I said is at the time was that I feel as though I found the girl that had dreams. When you're a child and all the things that you feel like you want to do, and then in life you forget and you become somebody's wife or somebody's mother or equally somebody's father or husband and you're somebody's boss or a million other titles rather than that child that had aspirations and dreams. And I really think somewhere along the trail, I remembered that. And along with the cancer, it makes you put life into perspective. And even on a really basic level, I just really enjoyed it and wanted to go back and do it again.
So 800 kilometers, is that the whole? I don't actually know too much about the Camino, so please excuse my probably ignorant questions. But anyway, I'm going to ask on behalf of our audience as well.
Cool.
So 800 kilometers is the entire Camino trail, or is that like in addition to the, because I thought Camino was smaller than that, but maybe I'm just hearing people that do a section.
The Camino de Santiago has many routes, and across Europe there are many paths.
Why is that?
No, and so most people think of the Camino Frances, which runs from a little village in the Pyrenees over the Pyrenees, and that route is 800 kilometers. But actually, the little town that people go to is the end of the route that comes all the way down through France. It's more of a modern invention. The longest one I've done was over 1,000, which came from the south of Spain. They go all over Europe. So the English way is only 100 kilometers because they took the boat and landed closer.
The beginner trail. 800 kilometers took you 5 weeks. So how much training did you have to do beforehand, or how much? Because like you said, your condition was not necessarily what you would think of as someone who's going to walk 800 kilometers maybe. So how did you apply yourself?
I, oddly enough, live on the Camino, which I didn't know. I live on one of the French routes. So I decided that I would walk part of that route as my training. But the only problem is it's not a circuit route. And so my husband would drop me off and then I'd phone him up. And after a few days when I was maybe 2 hours away from home, this really isn't working for me. I need to find a circular route. But up until I arrived on the Camino, I had never walked more than 20 kilometers in my life. And I never planned to. I thought I was going to do it really slowly. Yeah. But when you're there, because when you're training, you still think, okay, I'll go this morning, but this afternoon I have to do X, Y, Z. But when you're there, you get up at 7 o'clock in the morning and you have nothing else to do but walk. And so you can walk 25, 30 kilometers because there's nothing else to do. You've got all day to do that.
Do you know the simplicity of that? It really speaks to me, really speaks to me. I feel like I live in the country. I have quite a simple life by a lot of standards, and then just cutting away even the pieces that I've kept and just being like, I have me, a backpack, and literally what I have with me, and I'm just walking until I decide I'm stopping. So how does the accommodation side of things work? So is there places that you can stay? Do you book in ahead of time? Like, what's the logistics of this?
Yes, and it is changing because more people are walking, and there was a big sea change after COVID in how people wanted to find accommodation. So when I first walked, I stayed in municipal albergues, which are just hostels. Just a big room full of bunk beds, basically. And you might end up sharing a room with 20 or 40 other people. You turn up, get your bed, you carry your sleeping bag, have a shower, and everything that you need is in your bag. These days, I would have my sleeping bag, wash bag, and three changes of clothes, including the one that I'm wearing. So it's wear one, wash one, and have a spare one.
Yeah.
And there is a simplicity and a joy to that, but it's not for everyone for many reasons. And certainly after COVID, along came also private albergues, which a little step up. The beds are a little bit more comfortable. Lots of them have a little curtain, and I really love a curtain. It makes you feel like you have your own room.
Yeah. I have to say, I have to be honest and go, you had me at solo trekking. You lost me at 40 people in a room because, holy moly, my nervous system would not go.
No. And many people feel the same. So private albergues often will have a room for maybe 6 or 8 people. They are much better equipped. Some of them don't have bunks, but the bunks are generally much nicer, like say curtains, more showers per person. And then there are private rooms, and there are plenty. And, like my husband has got into walking in a big way, but his criteria is that he's too old to share a bathroom with anybody else. And so unless we have a private room, then he's not going.
Oh, so cool. So how long after you started walking did he finally give in and come with you?
It was a case of that. He didn't for the first couple. He did join me on the second one just for a day. Really, he was just picking me up, and he was there for the tapas and the wine, I think. And then I planned to walk the Via della Plata, it's called, which is over 1,000. So I was going to be away from home for a long time, and he was going to walk the last week. So he came for that and enjoyed it. And then when I first did it, lots of friends, some friends would take the mickey out of it a little bit. Oh my God, you love this. Yeah, you've got sleeping bunk beds and it must be awful. And it was a joke, but it's something I was passionate about. And I found the jokes wearing after a while. And Jerry would join in. And so we ended up having a big row about it. And I said, I don't want to laugh at something that means so much to me.
To you,
it's like, okay, you're not coming with me ever again. That's it. Yeah. You can stay at home. And he was like, I really enjoy it. I want to come with you.
Then stop taking the mickey, my friend.
So anyway, he then realized that this was something that was not going to go away in my life. And if he wanted to see me, that he'd have to come. But that also, if I wanted him to come, that I have to understand that he didn't want to sleep on the top bunk of a municipal albergue anymore.
Yeah.
So we found a happy medium.
So cool. Think back to, so how many years ago was the first walk that you
12.
Wow. Okay. So when you think back to that first walk, do you remember, are you walking by yourself mostly, or it's like people are, whatever, there might be a couple of you, there might be one, there might be.
All of that. I think you can find moments when you just walk alone, because otherwise you're just talking the whole day and that's exhausting.
Yeah.
And you run out of things to say. And sometimes you just want to stop the noise.
Yeah.
The Camino Frances is a busy route, but you can definitely find places to find some quiet. For started alone, and probably for the first half of it, generally walked alone. But there's a certain magic in walking into a village in the middle of nowhere in Spain and somebody calls your name because you had dinner with them the night before, or you slept next to them 5 weeks ago or something. Yeah. You do see the same people. There's this little ribbon that wanders through, and the people that started the same day as you tend to be the people that you keep seeing. So the gossip and news travels in this linear way.
That's reminding me of years ago, because my husband and I spent a little bit of time living in Portland, Oregon, and I've always been drawn by the Pacific Northwest Trail. And is it Wild? Cheryl Stroud's book about
Yes. Yeah.
So, Wild. That's the name of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Behind me somewhere. Yes, it is. Wild. That's what she talks about as well, that it is such a solo experience, and there's also those threads of the shared experience of the people that are on the trail at similar times, and the little notes that they left and things. Like I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like camaraderie type of thing.
It has certainly changed with the advent of WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger.
Yeah.
Not necessarily in a bad way, but people communicate more maybe because it's so accessible.
Yeah, and see, I don't know. The part that really appeals to me is being disconnected from all the noise, including the internet, particularly as an online business, I know.
Flight mode is your friend during the day, certainly. And I do take groups and I have to leave my phone on in case somebody is messaging, but I don't have the volume off.
Yeah.
And I think there's no emergency, touch words, that is so great that we can't wait until we stop for lunch or something.
Agreed. And that, not acting like everything is an emergency that must be responded to straight away is actually a really big gift for your nervous system anyway.
Yeah. And in fact, I started my blog mainly because I didn't want to have to talk to people constantly about it. But if I was an old blog.
Yeah.
And
I love that though.
Yeah. So clunky, but it was just so that I could every couple of days, because I had a data package for texting because it was so expensive in those.
That's so fun.
Crazy. It wasn't that long ago how far we've come with communication.
Yeah.
But it was just so that people could read that and know where I was without me having to contact people. And the only person I spoke to actually was my husband once a day. So that was the origins of why I started writing about the walking, but it was literally just to avoid communication.
Do you remember, the first time that you walked that 800 Ks, particularly on the other side of a cancer diagnosis, do you remember when the noise settled down, what became loud not loud necessarily, but what became much easier to spot in your internal experience of whatever was going on for you? So imagine
there was a day in particular where, so there's a town called Castle Jerez, which is just outside of Burgos, not quite halfway. So I guess about the 2.5 week mark. And I didn't walk for any religious reason or spiritual reason. It was just, that looked quite good. But it was nothing more than that. And maybe an element of challenging myself to think, I'm alive and let's go and do something. But I didn't think about it. It just felt like a nice thing to do. And I remember having a conversation with my little group of friends that I'd made the night before. People were talking about the reasons why they were walking. And I was like, if there was a bubble over my head as I was walking, it would be like, oh, that's quite nice. So that might make a nice photograph. But nothing at all serious, or it was just totally random. I wasn't walking for any great experience. That's just not me. I'm quite pragmatic and And so I'd had this conversation the night before, and then walking along the trail the next day, I don't know, maybe because somewhere that had triggered a thought, I don't know, but I did have this huge epiphany of, I was alone, thank goodness, about almost like suddenly remembering things that had long since been forgotten, that were no longer part of my life, and same, almost remembering the child. And I came from a bit of a brutal family, and my mum died when I was young, and there were all kinds of stuff that you never deal with. And suddenly I sat on the side of the trail, just sobbing, thinking, oh my God, where did that come from? And then okay. And I just carried on. But I don't know whether it is the space that you have in your head that allows little memories to creep in once you get rid of all of the noise. But I definitely felt as though I left a few things in the dirt that day. And it really shocked me, because that is not me at all. Yeah. But it is quite liberating as well to just think, okay, like dust it off, like it's irrelevant, and move on. I've never had anything quite like that since, but I definitely feel after a couple of weeks, actually, as I was saying now, after a day, I see a yellow arrow and think, okay. And it's like having therapy for a few weeks. You're in nature, you can feel the elements, whether it's rain or sun or mist, or you can hear the birds and you can see the snails. So, and there is a therapy in I think it's what we're meant to do as humans. We're meant to just walk slowly.
There's so much my science brain is that makes sense, because it's bilateral movement and there is nervous system regulation that happens and blah, blah, blah. But really, you don't have to make sense of it. It is just the truth that when we walk and when we move, and also when we're connected to our natural environment, which reminds us that there is a natural cycle to things and all of those things, like that is how we're meant to be living, no matter whether we currently live with fluorescent lights and 24/7 and blue light no eyes and blah, blah, blah. And so now, like, how has this unfolded to you actually leading other people through these experiences? Like, when did that kind of come across your, maybe I should share this?
I was talking to a lady on an online forum, and she mentioned that she lived in France. And I was like, I live in France too. And we realized that we lived an hour apart. So we're on this worldwide forum, and we've been talking to each other for a few years and not knowing that we were almost neighbors. And so it got me thinking, maybe there are other people around here who would like to just go walking, just locally. And so I created a little walking club called Walking Buddies, just to meet up people so that I didn't have to go for a walk alone. Yeah. And that started that people would say, oh, we'd really love to do the Camino. Will you arrange something? Yeah. And I had a walking buddy who lived nearby, who had been the first friend I'd made when we moved to France. Our kids were the same age, and we became firm friends and walked a few Caminos together. Yeah. And one day I arrived one Thursday morning for our walk, and she wasn't well. And 10 weeks later, she was dead. Oh. And that, if anything, gave us another huge wake-up call to how brief and fast cancer, as that was, can be, and how me and Jackie had talked so many times about taking people on the Camino because we'd done a few together and arranging walking trips and things. And I just thought, okay, I'm just going to do it. And I think it was a knee-jerk reaction. And it was only a week. I took people for a week and I really loved the experience. And I was worried that maybe people wouldn't get it in a week. That the experience is a little bit too
brief,
quaffed, that it wasn't real. But actually, they really did. And the people that I took still talk about how amazing that was for them. They would never have had that week. And in those days, I made them stay in bunk beds and traditional albergue.
The
whole package. And that was great. And I loved it. And then COVID happened.
Yes, I wondered how the big C word played out in all of this.
Yeah. And we were lucky in France. We didn't have such a terrible lockdown, really. We came back from Spain in March 2020 because they were closing the border and they kept the border closed, although we drove back to the UK to get our son from university.
Yeah.
But they opened the border again on the 1st of July. And we went and walked a Camino on the 2nd of July.
Oh, well, it's let me in there.
Yeah. And we did it differently. We had an apartment, took everything in our car, and we did what we called our there and back again. So we split a day in half and we walked there and walked back to our car and did it that way. But it was so amazing after not knowing where the world was going to be back on the trail, and Spanish people were really happy to see us. And that was hugely emotional. I think maybe the stress of those 3 months.
Yeah.
And then I took a couple of groups in 2020 and 2021, but bunk beds were a no-no.
Yeah,
people wanted to stay only in their groups. They didn't want to share rooms. And many albergues introduced private rooms and have kept them.
Gotcha. Yeah.
It has changed. I think just also because a lot of people really liked the private room idea. Yeah, it's easier if you've got a small albergue and it's much easier to have a couple of twin beds than it is 6 bunk beds and everybody using the bathroom. And so it just evolved. And then I was contacted by an American company who asked if I would run a group on the Portuguese Camino, but they wanted hotels. And so I did a walk just in hotels.
Yeah.
I worried whether that would lessen the experience.
Yeah.
It was a different experience, but I don't think it diminished anything from the people who were walking. The meaning for them was still the same. They still had some tough days. They still got blisters. They still had their camaraderie. And so these days, I mean, I'm not a tour company. I only do 1 or 2 a year because it's still my walking club.
Yeah.
And ensure that everybody stays in at least one albergue. I think you have to have that experience.
Yeah.
I also think it should be a very hands-off affair in that I don't want people to walk together as a group. If they don't want to walk alone, that's absolutely fine. If they want to have dinner alone, if they want a lie-in, we're all adults. I'm just facilitating it, and then everybody else has to walk their walk.
I was actually going to ask that because it feels like a very different energy to be on your own walk versus arranging other people to walk. And then I know I would at least feel this weight of making sure that it's a certain way or whatever the kind of. That sounds really cool though, because one of the things that that's what's actually stopped me. It's I don't want to be dictated to when to get up and who to walk with and blah, 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 because it's the solitude of this kind of thing that attracts me. But like I said before, I wouldn't also want to try and just go by myself completely if I wasn't traveling with someone. Yeah,
definitely 2 pluses and minuses for both. And for sure, putting a pack on your back and having that freedom is absolutely an incredible experience.
Yeah.
But for some people, they would never take that leap. They would never do that. But most people that have walked with me, in fact, maybe every person that has ever walked with me has gone on to do something else after. as
I
a
was going to
result.
ask how many people have been bitten by the bug, the level that you got bit and stayed bitten. That's so
Most
cool.
people come back and walk with me again or tell me that they've planned their own solo walk or are doing
Wow.
something else, which is amazing.
That's so cool. If you, like, I know this is a hypothetical question, but do you ever feel into, had I not said yes to that first drop-in idea? Because you said it literally has changed our lives. Like, obviously, health-wise, it's changed your life. But, like, what other things are you aware of that you're like, I'm not actually sure I would end up here had I not taken that fork in the road, pardon the pun?
Yeah, absolutely. The way we are embracing our retirement, for example, in September, we leave and we're going to go away for 3 years.
Tell us.
We've done 2 and we're back after 2 years, but we've been traveling. We decided we wanted to travel. We wanted to go do other walks. We wanted to go walking in other places. So we've walked like the Jordan Trail. We've walked in Japan. We've walked in Borneo, Africa. We've been walking around the world and not necessarily in the same way as 800 kilometers, but wherever we go, if there is a trail that we can do part of, then we will. And we just decided we wanted to travel. And then we thought, how do we want to travel? We want to do it independently.
Yes.
And we want to do it with just a rucksack. And yeah, we've just spent a couple of years doing that. We've come home because our house was feeling a little bit neglected. Yeah.
The reality of being a homeowner.
I know we would sell it, but we have a cat. And so we have somebody who lives in our house and looks after our cat, the most pampered cat in the world.
Well, I don't know. Mine's sitting in the sun on a queen chair at the moment.
And then we thought every time we go away, so we might plan 5 months of travel, a little bit like being in a group though. If you have an end date, you have to plan backwards. And so you're curating that experience.
Yes.
And we were talking to a friend and said, that's the hardest part, that you can't be free to just wander.
Yeah.
Vagabonding or.
Yeah.
And he said, you've got a house sitter, or not a house sitter, but a friend who stays in our home. He said, we all know them now. They've become friends with our friends.
Yes.
They've done so often. He said, why don't you ask them if they'll come for a few years?
Yeah.
And we're like, okay. So we don't want to rent our house. We don't want to go down that route. We didn't want to just somebody come live in our house and maintain it and look after it. And so they said yes. And so we were like, okay. So we had already planned to go to South America in October. And we're just going to continue and follow the weather, basically. And
now the jukebox in my head is playing Follow the Sun, which is weird because as I drove to Pilates this morning, the sun was like fully in my eyeballs and that's how I started my day. So there you go. It's appropriate. Oh, the whole concept of being
free.
Completely free. Oh, and also like I'm such a Cancerian person, like my home is my sanctuary, but I have a huge desire for freedom, and the concept of not having anywhere to be except where my desires lead me just feels delicious.
Exactly. It is incredibly freeing. You spend, you spend your life building a home and making it beautiful and buying stuff. And the last 5 years, we never buy anything, and all we want is a small house that we can look up and walk away from and have freedom. I feel as though our homes, as much as we spend our lives working for them, become a ball and chain. We're tied to them when all we really want to do is be free. I love The Alchemist, the book, The Alchemist, and how he said that he could smell Africa on the wind. And I was like, I cried when I read that book because it's me, I'm inside. Yes. And this person, I didn't exist before it did exist, but it's found this freedom over the last 12 years of realizing you don't have to live your life in this box. And you don't need to be a millionaire either. You can do it really cheaply.
Yeah. All of this is just, I knew this was going to be an episode where I will walk away going, Yes. Why am I not doing that yet? Because I don't know, every single piece of me feels viscerally like I actually, as you're talking, it's reminding me of when we went to live in Portland. Part of the reason for that was that I moved to New York City for a 3-month internship. And so I was by myself. My kids and my husband were over in Portland. And it was just after my dad died. So I was very much in full on grief, and also had 6 years of having 2 babies and looking after my dad for 6 years in quite intensive. So it's the first time that I had been solo, and I need so much time by myself. And I just remember the feeling of putting shoes on and stepping out the door and literally just saying left or right, and just continuing to be led by whatever took my interests or my desires, and stopping when I want and doing whatever. And I still have these such clear memories. I had randomly, it's back when Facebook was just new, like it was just new. And I was in a group of Australians, and I happened to be connected to the lady who was the first voice of Siri. And I saw that she'd moved to New York, and I was like, oh, I should randomly reach out to this person who has no idea who I am. And anyway, this day she had invited me to a yoga class. And so I headed out, I had my yoga mat with me, and I had a backpack, and I just had whatever I thought that I might need for a day. And I had no fixed plans after the yoga class. And I went to yoga, and then I ended up going back to her place, and I met her son, and then stayed there for lunch. And then I was like, oh, I might go and check out what's on Broadway, like the last minute ticket things. I went and watched the show. And then after the show, I was still like, I don't know, there's still like sparkle in me. I want to just keep on just sampling this delicious place. And also grief is a funny thing. Like for me, that was a lot of catharsis in just being able to be where I was and have whatever emotional state I was in. And I just remember that night I got on one of the double-decker buses, and I was on the top of this bus going through, I can't even remember where it would have been, but near this, like a pizza shop that it just looked like exactly what New York looked like on TV. There was like just this hot, and it started to rain, and I'm on top of the bus with open lidded bus. So here I am with my yoga mat over my head, and I'm just like, I can just remember going, it's the best day ever. And because of that freedom, just to be able to just keep on snacking on what felt good and just being led. And just as you're talking, I'm like, oh, I desire that. Oh, my goodness.
I think we all do. And I think that life is just getting faster, and I worry about our kids. And although I feel as though our youngest, certainly, that generation who were sort of 17, 18 when COVID happened, they're much more serious and maybe turning their back on some of the Facebook, Instagram kind of stuff, and they're looking for something a little bit different. But I just think it's tough. Well, in life makes it really hard. We've all got to be something rather than just be.
Yeah.
Actually,
but it's all external stuff. And like you said about the house, we moved to the country consciously because we wanted to bring our kids up in the country, but also because it was simpler. We needed less money to buy a house. We had less pressure to make. I spent a long time in corporate churning my way to burnout, and just was like, I'm just not available for that anymore. And when I look at the life that we lead, it is so simple. And sometimes I do have moments where I'm like, I wonder what our life would be like if we stayed in the city. And I'm just like, it's just the things that we've been taught are important are not important to me, not as much as this sense of freedom and sovereignty, which is that's really what we're talking about. So
and who's telling us what we should be? Our son has recently changed career path, and we were talking to him, and he said, my inspiration is you. And he said, I love that you stepped away from a successful business, which we did. We sold and come to France, and you had time. And he's changing path or career path because he wants time. He used to think he wanted money, but now he doesn't. And there's that realization that the only thing that we cannot buy is time. And I would much rather have an experience, good or bad, than a new pair of shoes.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. Oh,
And I think so many people feel the same. And maybe that's why last year, over 500,000 people walked the Camino. And maybe people are searching for some freedom, but just to have even just a week of freedom, I think there is a lot in that. And once you have that little taste, you just think, why am I buying different color napkins for a table decoration when I could be buying a pair of hiking shoes?
but also, what am I trying to hide from by buying the freaking napkins in the first place? Is this actually the life that feels good for me or not? And if it is, no shade on that. I'm not saying that everybody's cup of tea.
The pressure that you feel under to make everything look wonderful. I feel as though women in particular, women of a certain age, are like, we were handed this mantle, like, you're the generation, you have the pill, you have the freedom to make choices, burn your bra and equal rights. And so you've got to make the most of that. You have to be something. Yeah. And then you have to have an amazing home and your kids have got to all do well.
Have it all, be it all, bloody
pressure. And women and men too, but I can obviously only speak from a female voice, but you just think it's all politics. We don't need to do any of that. Some of the women that I most admire now are the ones that have such freedom, that really don't care about what norms there are. And we are under pressure. And the simple act of putting a backpack on and knowing you've only got 2 outfits because otherwise you've got to carry it. Yeah, I've weighed my lipstick. I actually know how much my lipstick weighs because I have always worn red lipstick. And so I will sacrifice those 68 grams in my pack for lipstick. And that was my choice.
Oh my God. I love that. I love that so much. Oh my goodness. What an inspiration. What would you like to leave? First of all, where can people find you so that they can connect if this is vibrating in their soul like it is in mine?
My website is called Then We Walked because that's what we do. We go somewhere and then we walk. Yeah. And it started off as a Camino blog, and I am trying to write about each route. And it's morphed into independent travel now because when we were looking for information, everything was in a younger person's voice. Yeah. And so they're great if you are 20 or 30 something, but that wasn't the experience that we were looking for. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to write about our journeys. And I'm saying its infancy. I'm so far behind in it. Yeah. But lots of our friends say to us, oh, we couldn't travel like you do. It was like, but it's really easy to do. And a lot of people assume that we must have lots of money, and we really don't because we stay in homestays. And we went through Japan, but the only way we could do it was in bunk beds in hostels. And we use buses and take local trains and do lots of walking and eat locally. And lots of people.
Sorry, to me, that's the real experience that's why I would much prefer to stay, if I had to choose between Airbnb where you get to meet the host who is a local versus a hotel, I will choose the Airbnb all the time because to me, there's one level of experience that you get as a tourist and there's a completely different level of experience you get when you are amongst people who actually live there, not the polished version.
We didn't make this conscious choice. It was just, if we were to do this, we can only spend 12 euros. Yeah, we can't spend 80. And when we stumbled into it, we were like, actually, we have stayed in some awful places. Yes, to no denying that. But that's also taught us with it, okay, we can live with this for 2 days. We turned up at some places. There was a place in India. We were there for 3 months and we arrived and it was pretty awful, and the bed was like sleeping on a marble countertop, and what are we doing here? But there were 5 rooms and a huge balcony, and we met 3 other couples there who were much younger, our kids' age actually, and we still called them kids, and we had the best 3 days in the company of these wonderful people. we would never have had if we'd have said, oh, I'm not going to stay. And actually, we still slept and it was clean and it was fine. And traveling like that has taught us how much we can actually tolerate and that we don't need. And whilst we could probably, now that we're both getting our state pension,
Yes.
maybe we could spend a little bit more, but we don't want to, because the real joy is the people that you meet. And we have no other way than to do it independently, because tours are so expensive.
I'm looking at them, we're just about to celebrate our 25th wedding anniversary, and we're like, okay, we're going to just head to Asia and just keep it super simple. But I did look at tours and I was like, ridiculous. And then we started looking up. We've got a few friends that have stayed in more the Airbnb style of thing. And I'm like, oh my God, we are doing this for about a quarter of the price. We will have an experience that means more to us as people. We will still get the relaxation. And what I love about travel is the beginner's mind of it. I've never seen this before. I've never experienced it before. And so I will still get my hit of that. But yeah, I'm like, and also the whole concept of being on a guided tour where you have to be in, it just doesn't speak to me. I like the interaction with people, but I don't like being told what to do. That's why I'm not an employee. I'm not very good at that.
It's true. And we all end up in this procession, and you don't get to go and explore the little corners. And no, for sure. And it is, we spent a couple of months traveling through Vietnam, and it was so easy to do because their buses are amazing. You can get
that going.
It's
exciting.
So the blog evolved. Half of it is about the Camino and half of it is growing into, you can, just as you can walk a Camino, you can also travel the world. Even if you only do it for 2 weeks, your money will go way further if you just take that leap of faith and trust that you can actually do this and you're not going to die. And
yes. And really that, is not, I'm sure there is things that you need to be think about, but I feel like, I'm a big believer in universal insurance too, right?
Absolutely.
Throw out the bubble and trust.
The most sick I have ever been in our travels is through eating salad in Peru.
Uh-huh. Yep. I was just thinking about my mum and stepdad were big trekkers, and the worst thing that ever happened to them was my mum was in India on her 60th birthday. She had, queued for hours and hours to meet the Dalai Lama, who happened to be there. And the next day she went on they used to do really hard treks, like over really crazy high peaks and whatnot. And this one day she went on this extra little, like just a wee walk, like it wasn't anything serious. But she was so fascinated by the mountain in front of her, she walked off the mountain she was on and broke her wrist really badly. That was in
McLeod Ganj.
I don't know. I feel like I should know, and now I've forgotten. It's a long time ago. But
I went to a place called McLeod Ganj in India where the Dalai Lama lives.
Yeah,
and
it might have been.
There's a mountain trek there, I think called the Triage Trek, which is a stunning place.
Wherever it was, she was taken to a hospital on the back of an animal, obviously very painful when you've got a broken wrist. And then the wrist was set, but too tight. And then it was actually quite a big drama. But over all the places they've ever been, in some crazy places, well before the internet, that's the only thing that's ever gone seriously wrong. And she's fine now.
And that could happen here at home as well. Sometimes fear gets the better of you. I don't know why we have become so fearful. I'm still fearful. And it's easy to talk yourself into being fearful. I don't know why we do that. Because
it's a safety thing. I think we get so comfortable in our little boxes with our way of doing things.
And maybe the 24-hour news thing, trying to convince us that we're better and the rest of the world is scary. And
that's why I don't watch any of it. I just like I'm not exposing myself to that version of the world. Oh, so good. Now, I just want to check with you as well. When you've mentioned that, so you're just about to head off, so no Camino traveling groups for a little
I know I'm going to walk the Camino next week.
Oh, excited. A bit too late notice for me, Colleen.
I was going to say to you, do you know that there is a pilgrimage route through Italy called the Via Francigena, and there are different variations to it, and it takes you to Rome.
I did not know that.
You can
I'm totally like, for someone who says that she wants to do it, I've done nothing about it. It's just a desire that I haven't leaned into. But you have inspired me no end. It's been so cool getting to know you. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And just, I just want to echo what your son said to you. I'm always so inspired by people that have said no to the done way of doing life when it doesn't fit them. Go for it if it fits you. But I just find listening to people's stories that have gone, no, that's actually, I've done a fair share of that in my life, but I feel like there's more that I haven't leaned into. So thank you for sharing that with me, because it's been, I know our listeners are going to absolutely love this. So I'm already thinking now, what will I call this? 68 grams worth of lipstick or princess straps on a backpack?
There is a book called Can Princesses Wear Hiking Boots?
There you go. There you go. I love it.
And yeah, they can.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Oh, so good. So good. Oh, love. Thank you so much. It's been such a joy. And you do have some light in your background now, so I'm glad.
But the mist is clearing. So
good. Thank you. I know it's early for you, but so much love.
Cool.
Oh,
excellent.
There you go, beautiful one. Another delicious, juicy, truth-talking episode with a disruptor rebel or revolutionary sharing the identity shifts and the mess and the magic of leading right on the edge of your expansion and going first as a visionary leader, as a woman creating a business, and inviting people to completely new ways of learning, living, loving, and leading. It is not lost on me that you have invested your time and your energy in listening to the show. I am so grateful for your beautiful heart, for the work that you do in the world. And I know that if you're here, you are more than likely one of what I call the Mad Hatters. So the quirky, colourful, creative, out of the box, often neurosparkly, paradigm shifters and thought leaders. So I'm so grateful that you're here. If you loved this episode, which I'm sure you did, please do me a favor and share it with someone else who needs to understand that their quirkiness and their full, unapologetic self-expression is more than enough, and in fact is the secret sauce to growing a wildly successful, abundant, nourishing, sustainable business. So here is to us, the Mad Hatters, the crazy out-of-the-box people saying no to old paradigms and inviting into the new. And if you'd love to go the extra mile, please make sure that you subscribe on the platform that you're on so you never miss an episode. And hey, it would be sweet, sweet, sweet if you would leave us a 5-star review. It means the world to us, and it helps us get this truth talk and this magic and this power out to even more Mad Hatters. So have a beautiful day, and I will speak with you next week.